How did I end up in Paraguay? Marlon, tell your story. Sometimes people ask us, right? Let's go. Guys, a few years ago, I was living in Brazil in Cascavel, Paraná, and I remember that with this digital wave, I met a Paraguayan woman online on Instagram. I met a Paraguayan woman on Instagram and we started chatting. Jessica's mother lived in Foz do Iguaçu. And I remember that during Carnival that year, she was visiting her mother, right? Me not being a fool and being pretty good at conversation, I started chatting with the brunette, right? Here in Paraguay, for them, morena doesn't mean brunette. Someone with black hair, right? But that's okay. And I convinced her. I said, look, I have a business. I can't go. It's a time when we're working a lot and all that. Come visit me. And Jessica went to Cascavel to visit me at the time. We had already been talking for a long time. It was a deep conversation, practically philosophical. And we met each other. We spent a few days together that long carnival holiday. And then she left. And I remember that in our conversations, I always said that I was a guy raised by my grandfather, that I was someone who thought a certain way, a bit more of a provider, more traditional. And I remember she told me, oh, we women from Paraguay, we want to get married, we want to have children, we want a husband who takes care of us, right? I remember that actually that's what made us keep talking because she always thought I was kind of rude on the internet, but she always noticed that I would say, no, look, I think this is right, this is wrong, this I accept, this I don't accept. I always made it very clear in all our conversations that this whining nowadays happens because women only want the good side of men. That is, that he pays the bills, that he protects, that he does this, that he does that. But along with this kind of man who does all that, comes a man who knows what he wants, a man who has boundaries, a man who is demanding. And I always made that clear to her. I said, and today it's hard. Women want a guy who pays the bills, but she doesn't want to. She doesn't know how to cook. She doesn't want to take care of the kids. She wants the house to be filthy. She neglects her own body, and life just goes on. And then she left, and I missed her. And I came back after her, and she came to Asuncion. And then I remember I called her and said, oh, where do you live there? In Asuncion? She said, oh, she lives in such and such a place, right? Then why her? I said, oh, I'm here in Foz, already crossing the border to come find you. And I went after Jessica. It was the first time I entered Paraguay with my heart in my mouth because for most of us Brazilians, Paraguay is really like that. We have a very wrong idea of what Paraguay is. I remember I even made jokes and said, oh, look, there are streetlights here. That's good, right? There's pavement. I used to make these kinds of jokes, crude, stupid, but anyway. And we ended up coming, spending some time together. She went to live in Foz with her mother so we could be closer at the time. And after a few months of her living in Foz, I said, look, there's no reason. I'm a businessman. I have a company. I have my money. I have my house. Come live with me, right? We always hold back a little because everything happened very fast and there's always that doubt. But since